Robert Mugabe resisted pressure to stand down. The army intervening last week. It didn't say it was a coup, but it said it was intervening after the vice president had been sacked. Some divisions in the ZANU-PF party over who might succeed Robert Mugabe. But in the end, Robert Mugabe, there was too much pressure, and now he has resigned after 37 years in power.
That's probably the most important and most significant part of this whole episode, that he finally resigned with his own hand, by his own volition. And for this, the African Union Commission Chairperson, Mr. Faki Mahamat, definitely welcomes this decision by President Robert Mugabe to step down voluntarily and as head of state, following 37 years, as you say, in power in Zimbabwe.
What does this mean, this resignation, for the region?
Well, I think this is yet another notch for the region's very strong democratic credentials. This was a resignation from a sitting head of state. There was no violence. Till now, the rule of law has been respected. There's nothing that indicates that this will not be the case in the future. The institutions in the country are strong, and we hope that they will continue to abide by this very admirable, not only show of restraint by all parties concerned, but also that it led to a peaceful resignation of the sitting president.
Ebba, it's Robert Parsons here. In a way, I suppose by signing his agreement to go, Robert Mugabe has got the African Union and everybody else who's been watching closely, including the South African development community, off the hook, because ultimately it really was a coup d'etat, wasn't it? The army stepped in. Put Mugabe under house arrest, and although people could try and spin a web around it, make it seem like it was rather less than that, effectively that's what it amounted to, surely.
Let's agree to disagree on that one. I think this was a very peculiar transfer of power. I think what it should be remembered for is that it was peaceful, in a manner that secures the democratic future of Zimbabwe. And the decision by President Mugabe to resign definitely paves the way for a transition process to start that is owned and led by the people of Zimbabwe. And I think also contextually, this is such a momentous achievement, just by the groundswell of support towards this movement, and that ultimately Robert Mugabe acceded to it after 37 years of power. And this, to a certain extent, also seals his place in history, because you must remember, in 1980 and before that, during the liberation war of Chimurenga, Robert Mugabe was, until very late, an extremely respected liberation movement leader. Almost, was part of the first independent Republic of Zimbabwe. He still has a very strong and powerful part of our history in Southern Africa, and remains so despite it all.
But you mentioned the democratic future of Zimbabwe. If, as has been reported, the sacked vice president, Emmerson Mnangagwa, takes over as president, then that is the ruling ZANU-PF party staying on in power. Earlier, we had the main opposition leader, Morgan Tsvangirai, calling for free and fair elections. I guess next year, that'll be the next big test for Zimbabwe.
I think the institutions, the national players in Zimbabwe, have shown incredible democratic leadership and extreme wisdom during this entire process. There's nothing that indicates that this will not be the case moving forward. And throughout all of the difficult years, the people of Zimbabwe have continued to demonstrate remarkable resilience, really, and commitment to their country. And right here, the African Union is confident that, together with their leaders from across the political spectrum, will remain steadfast in this commitment to recover the healing of this country.
Ebba, just to pick up on what you were saying, it was interesting that Emmerson Mnangagwa yesterday was saying that the construction of Zimbabwe moving forward is going to be a national rather than a party political project. Do you think we should take him at his word, or is that somebody who's just manoeuvring into position at the moment, and that ZANU-PF, once it's got itself consolidated again, will carry on in exactly the same way that it did under Robert Mugabe?
I think this is too momentous a moment to speculate. I think this has truly been a national movement that has brought this to this point. And I do think that he's right. This will be a national reconstruction and recovery program for the new Zimbabwe. There's nothing that indicates that this will not be the case. The fact that, that the ZANU-PF as the ruling party remains in power, I don't know how that would translate in more of the same.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Ebba Kalondo, for joining us there from Addis Ababa. Ebba Kalondo, the spokesperson for the African Union Commission chairperson.